Weatherford, your drilling tool source for virtually any drilling, completion, or workover task. As the #1 provider of drilling tools, we offer more than one of the broadest selections of tools. No one can match our commitment to safety and quality standards, and no one has our combination of global reach, employee training, and equipment certification programs. We understand that our job does not stop upon tool delivery. We're with you from startup to completion. With locations in most petroleum provinces around the world, we provide unmatched service to support a broad selection of tools from proven conventional technologies to the latest advances for extreme environments. Weatherford's jars are recognized as the industry standard, and our offering includes an array of types and sizes of jars, as well as other downhole tools, such as jar slinger tools, MA drilling enhancers, shock absorbers, lubricated bumper subs, and thrusters. Our jar placement program helps you make better jar placement decisions. It uses stress wave analysis to help you examine and optimize the location of the jar in your drilling string or fishing assembly. With years of experience and feedback, we continue to develop our program to provide a clearer, more professional and accurate output. Our service capability sets the industry standard as well. Certified level 1, 2, and 3 technicians satisfy all of your repair and maintenance needs. Our repair and maintenance facilities are audited for compliance by level 3 technicians, and our tools undergo some of the most rigorous testing in the industry. All of this gives you the confidence that our tools will perform the way you expect them to. Sometimes the difference between a short delay in drilling operations and an expensive fishing job, a sidetrack, or possible abandonment of a well could depend on the driller's first action. Jars are run in a string to deliver impact blows to a stuck BHA, the same way that a hammer delivers a blow to a nail, except in both directions, up and down. Maximizing both the impact and, more importantly, the impulse is the key to freeing the fish. There are 3 different types of jars: mechanical, hydraulic, and a combination of the two called hydromechanical. Mechanical jars are preset to trip at a specific load. They're used mainly in vertical wells, and the driller needs only to slack off or pick up with enough weight to overcome that preset trip load. That trip load is preset at the repair and maintenance facility by certified technicians. If the jar is set to trip at 50,000 pounds, that's the weight you'll need to apply to release the jar, and the force that hits the hammer is 3 to 4 times that load. Getting the required load to the jar can be a problem if you have elevated hole drag. In this case, hydraulic jars are a better option. Hydraulic jars are normally used in directional wells when hole drag makes it difficult to get up or down loads to the jar. Hydraulic jars are not preset. They trip with whatever force is applied to the jar. You just need to wait long enough for the jar to trip. Weatherford's jars are designed to trip at approximately 30 seconds when the maximum overpull is applied to the jar. The time can be much longer if maximum overpull does not reach the jar. The force you're transmitting to the jar by either pushing or pulling is the force that hits the hammer minus any drag. Now let's say the driller is pulling and holding 50,000 pounds at the surface. 20,000 of that may be getting to the jar. That's what the impact will be when the jar trips. How your jars work and how you need to work them is affected by several downhole factors. One of those factors is stretch. When you're drilling at 10,000 feet, the drill string has a 5 to 6 foot stretch. This stretch is the potential energy, like the energy in a rubber band. When a jar is tripped, a latch is open, letting the stretch of that drill string accelerate the weight up to 4 or 5 times, so that a 50,000 pound overpull can provide an impact of 250,000 pounds if you have that stretch. However, something that can work against stretch is hole drag. S-shaped and high-angle wells usually have a lot of drag. The stored energy we just talked about is partially used by drag as the jar is tripped. The more drag, the less effective your impact force will be. With hydraulic jars, you're not limited to a preset amount of force. You can provide as much as the hole needs or your string can bear. A device called an accelerator, also sometimes referred to as a slinger or intensifier, can be used in conjunction with the jars on highly deviated wells to assist the jars in increasing the impact and impulse, especially if hole drag is high. The Weatherford slinger or enhancer
can also be used in shallow holes, where pipe stretch is insufficient to properly operate your jars.
Another downhole factor that affects your jars is pump pressure. The pressure that the mud exerts on the moving parts in the jar applies an opening force. A jar is basically a sliding or telescoping sleeve with a latch in the middle and a stop at one end that provides a sudden impact. That sliding sleeve is pushed to its furthest extension by the mud's pressure, causing a jar opening force. That causes several things. Your upward blow is increased by the mud's force, and cocking the jar for a down blow is made easier, all because the mud's pump open force is pushing the jars to its most open, extended state.
That same pump open force must be overcome when cocking down to jar up and when jarring down. In other words, the mud's force is working against you. Pump open force varies by jar size, so it's important to have the correct specifications, know how the jars operate, and know the jar's operating parameters. You'll also need to know the effects circulating can have on your jar. Now, this is very important if you cannot stop or at least reduce your circulating rate to adjust for the pump open force.
If you're packed off and the pressure is trapped on the string, you'll need to bleed it off. A small amount of fluid, called jar oil, is metered through a small hole as the mandrel is forced into a constricted area. The mandrel is hydraulically held in place by an incompressible fluid until you push or pull the opposite direction. That same amount of fluid is metered out again, and the jar trips and the mandrel passes from the constricted area into a freer space. With Weatherford's hydraulic jar, the time delay is provided by metering a small amount of synthetic hydraulic jar oil through an orifice known as a visco jet. This patented time delay system provides the operator with a consistent time delay that has no bleed-off. Lost overpull can be a problem as the operator applies the desired load only to find that a significant portion of the overpull has bled off by the time the jar trips. Jars with bleed-off often lead to the inappropriate practice of adding extra overpull to compensate. This can lead to a damaged or parted drill string. To operate the jars correctly, the driller needs to know the normal pickup and slack-off weights as well as the free rotating weight of the string and the BHA weight. Using these numbers allows the driller to predetermine what indicator weight readings he'll need to jar more effectively. For instance, to jar up, you need to cock down, right? You need to calculate just how much to slack off to get this accomplished. Any extra weight, and you could be making a bad problem worse.
Many times, a drilling jar is sent in for failing to work, just to find out later that there was nothing wrong with it. There are several reasons for a jar not to trip.
The jar may not be cocked because pump open force is not accounted for. The pickup or slack-off weight is incorrect. There may be excessive hole drag. Right-hand torque may be trapped and can cause an increase in the trip load. And finally, the string could be stuck above the jar.
One of the most critical aspects of drilling jar operation is jar placement. Maximizing the impact and impulse are imperative to freeing a stuck fish or drill string. So, where should you place your jar in the string? As close to the stuck point as possible, but not below stabilizers, because they could dampen the jar's effectiveness and may get you stuck.
Weatherford provides jar placement service that optimizes the effectiveness of the impact and impulse delivered to the stuck point. Our jar placement program optimizes the placement of the jar and accelerator using finite element analysis of the drill string. Each finite element of the drill string is analyzed to determine its effect on the jarring process to optimize the jar placement. Our analysis is provided directly to clients. It includes the optimum jar placement with the impact and impulse delivered to the stuck point at varying overpulls.
Finally, a note about safety. It's very important that the crew stays clear of the floor area around the rotary table. All surface equipment should be secured and the crew ready prior to the beginning of the jarring operation. You never know when something could jar free from the derrick or break apart. The crew should stand behind the driller or in some other safe place.
Not only are Weatherford's jars recognized as the industry standard, but we provide one of the broadest selections of drilling tools available. Our commitment to service and quality standards is unmatched in the industry, and no one can offer a better combination of global reach, employee training, and equipment certification programs. For more information, visit weatherford.com or contact a Weatherford representative. Weatherford, your drilling tool source.